I'm here, Chris.
Yeah.
Nice background.
Yes, a modicum of professionalism from time to time.
Well, as long as it's only from time to time, we don't want to, expect too much from any of us.
Do you want to kick things off as kind of part of the wider work that you've been doing, or
How would you like to do it?
I really don't mind. If it's an opportunity for you to promote something else, feel free. If not, I'll just jump straight in. Whatever you.
Shall I just introduce you and welcome everyone, and then?
Yeah, and then I'll say that Holly and John will introduce themselves as we go
Okay,
through.
yeah, that sounds like a very good point. How would you like me to introduce you?
Just Behaviour Change Manager within transport strategy, and then I can sort of talk a bit more about what that involves.
Okay, here's John. Look at it, got in.
Hi, John.
Now then, allow mic, allow camera.
Muted. It's all right. It's me not wanting to show my face yet. There you go.
Now, you don't look like I would expect for John Little. Don't take that badly.
I don't. Well, I don't know. Some people know I look like. Some people don't know who I look like or how I look. I like to dance in the shadows, doing what I do in active travel in London. I'm not loved by everybody, so
never.
You have to.
Well, don't worry. My husband instigated the car park charges at Suffolk County Council.
Well, I'm amongst friends then. Yeah, that's I've been head of parking at a consultancy. I worked on the Emirates Stadium. So we did well, it was parking and kind of active travel stuff actually around the Emirates Stadium. But yeah, we did like 20. Talking about earlier, 24 controlled parking zones in 3 years in Islington, and pretty much annoyed every local taxi driver, gangster, dodgy garage, nefarious meat trader in a
gangsters.
backstreet. No, you touch everybody when you do that sort of thing, and my word, were we popular. But if you ask everyone now in Islington, they'd fight you if you tried to take them out, you know. But but it's a funny old game, isn't it? You never get the thank you.
Yeah,
exactly. Everyone wants progress, they don't want change, and you don't tend to be around when people realise that actually it was a good idea. It's like the mini Holland. I mean, I do live in the borough, but and sort of Waltham Forest mini Holland is most famous or infamous for, depending on who you are. And you know, that one we didn't get any thank you cards. I have, funnily enough, been in a pub in Walthamstow Village not that long ago, and the barman, who wasn't always my friend back in the day, bought me a pint and put it on the bar and said, I was stood in here the other day watching the kids play in the street outside the pub, and I realised you were right and I was wrong. Sorry about that. Have a pint. And
wow.
I kind of wanted him to write it down so I could show people the writing rather than the pint. It's, you know, the pint it was nice, but it's like we want it up on a billboard in town somewhere, you know. But
definitely. But you know, what a big thing to apologise.
It's great. And well, exactly. And you don't normally get that, do you? And so people, I think, you know, he's in a street that used to be a rat run of 5,000 vehicles a day, and now it's kind of the most photographed, you know, public space probably in the country for, you know, and all kids and, you know, dogs on leads and cargo bikes and all that good stuff. And I'm sure his pub's doing okay out of it now. You know, again, he was quite rightfully concerned about, I would say, slightly ironic passing trade for a pub, motor vehicle passing trade. Is not something I actively encourage for pubs. I think, but that's just a personal choice.
Yeah, and we see, don't we, when any modal change, taking away vehicles, actually increases trade.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not many places that, you know, get pedestrianised and are made worse or less economically viable. I mean, again, you can point at some. And actually, funnily enough, I'm working in Harrow at the moment, and the leader of the council took up the point at something, you know, he thinks is a potential parallel with service roads being filled in, and you know, at the moment they're just where people park cars, lots of them, and go in and just get in each other's way, and we want to turn them into sort of more like public spaces outside these shops. But he's not so keen on the idea. But it's just trying to explain to people the potential. Even just the volumes of people that you can put into those spaces, you know, as human beings versus human beings in cars is I mean, it doesn't even bear comparison. But if you're if you're convinced that because you came by car, everyone else is going to, and no one's ever going to change, it's quite hard to see past that, and that's understandable. And that's actually kind of why we've made the software we've made, funnily enough, which is
we're having a
nice
pre-webinar here, Leslie. Do you know, you're getting extra book for you, or content.
It's like the green room,
yeah, although it's been free, but yeah excellent.
Is this us? Is this it?
No, there should be more people. Okay. No, we've got quite a nice little number signed up, but then every time I do this, I do realise that those signed up don't necessarily come on the night.
Well, I have to be honest, I forgot it was 6 o'clock, so I am still eating my dinner. So I'm going to go off screen, if you like, while I get on with the jacket potato.
Oh, sounds good. Share it around.
It does sound good.
Yeah, John's got his rider of blue M&Ms to get through.
Okay.
All right.
I'm still here, obviously.
Not a problem, Leslie. Yeah. Good. Just looking up something I sent myself. Which I'm... Oh, excellent. I'll just get Sean into the mix. Camera. Hello, Sean. You should be able to use your camera and your mic now. And whether you want to is another matter, but you can do. And Kirk, let me get you part of the group. Again, hi, Kirk. I've just allowed you camera and mic facility if you want to use them. Nice to have you with us. Comes George. Hi, George. Again, I've taken off the not allowing your camera and your mic. So if you want to use your camera, feel free. Look at that. I worked that out myself. We just give it a couple more minutes, guys, for other people to log in. Intervillages Superhighway. Is that something people have heard about on the... It's a Suffolk thing. Did I see some shaking heads there from Holly and Chris?
This is not the new name for the Northern Bypass that I believe some politicians are now keen to resurrect.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's a cycling and walking intervillage superhighway. I mean, wow. Right, I'll put a link in straight away for everybody. Not to encourage everybody. Oh, we've got Georgina. Georgina, just bear with me a minute whilst I get you permission for mic and your camera. Feel free to put them on if you would like to. Obviously, when we get started with the presentation, if everyone could keep theirs on mute, that certainly helps with being able to hear the speaker and get a good quiet zone for them. I'm going to pop in chat. This is not to look up whilst everybody's chatting, unless you're able to multitask. But Holly and Chris, it's looks like it's providing off-road cycling routes for leisure and commuting in East Suffolk.
I know, just had a quick Google of it.
Yeah, something that I found out the last couple of days. So yet another resource for us all. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh,
okay,
it's interesting. Yeah,
it is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So whilst we had a little pre-webinar before 6 o'clock, this is your taster link to have a look to see what else is available to us locally on cycling provision. Okie dokie. Right, well, it's 2 minutes past 6, and you know, everybody's got a busy life. We're all here to have a listen to pointers on active travel and transport. So welcome everybody to the webinar. It's lovely to have everybody, and I am recording this, so it will be available after we've finished, and please do mention to friends, colleagues, groups, etc. that it will be on the Greenest County website as soon as we can get it there. If anybody doesn't want their picture on, absolutely fine, leave your camera off, but it sometimes helps the presenters to know who they're talking to. So if you do feel able to, then it'd be lovely to see your faces. We have the chat function, which should be on the top of your screen, and I will be looking through that chat and having any questions or whatever through that. There is a question and answer mode as well, but being as I'm a definitely one thing at a time person, just pop things into the chat would be great. Hello to Jill. I'm allowing your mic and your videoing, your camera, so if you want to come on camera, please do. And literally we've got an hour together. If it lasts longer than that, or if you need to disappear before that, feel free. Pop your hands up, which again is at the top. If you feel like asking questions straight away, I'm sure our presenters won't mind, and I can bring you in. It just again helps the flow of it, really. But if you can't do that, you know, raise a hand anyway, like this. I can watch that, or you know, feel free to come in when you feel able to. So I'm part of the Suffolk Climate Change Partnership, which has been running since 2007, and is all the local authorities coming together to make the Greenest County and decarbonisation and the Suffolk Climate Emergency Plan actually get some action. And I work with several colleagues on this. I work with people in all areas, including active travel, and I have a network with tons of people who are doing things around the county. So if you want to get hold of me, or you would like to chat further, I will just put my link in to the chat box. And I would like to introduce our wonderful presenters tonight, who I don't think I've put that quite right. Here we've got Chris Grover, Holly Weir and John Little, who are with us to help us on our journey through active travel. And I'm going to pass straight over to Chris, who is a behavioural change manager for active travel. Good. Yeah, I like that. It's quite a nice title anyway, Chris. You've got presenters' rights, and just carry on with what you've got to deliver to us, because we're all looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Chris.
Super. Good. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. Apologies if you hear my stomach rumbling after one of our guests here has mentioned that she was finishing her jacket potato, but hopefully we'll be done swiftly enough for those of you who haven't eaten to be able to be dining by 7:05. I'll let my colleagues Holly and John introduce themselves as we go through. As Claire has mentioned, I'm the Behaviour Change Manager within Transport Strategy at Suffolk County Council. We cover a wide range of things. We cover road safety education, principally in primary schools. We deliver bikeability training, which you and I probably know better as cycling proficiency, to around 4,000 9, 10, 11-year-olds each year across the county. And then we work through the planning process to ensure that developers of developments of a certain scale are compelled to focus on introducing measures of active and sustainable travel to and from those developments, both during the build out of the development and for a period of some years afterwards. And then Suffolk is one of 11 local authorities that were successful in bidding for some money from the Department for Transport for a pilot project around social prescribing. So social prescribing is something where you have an ongoing but perhaps relatively low level chronic condition. It could be something like diabetes, it could be heart disease, it could be depression, and you go to your GP and your GP thinks that actually rather than prescribing medication, if you became more active, that could help your condition, and there's a growing body of evidence that supports that. So they will then refer you into our programme, and that's running across Ipswich and Lowestoft, and we're just going into year 2 of a 4-year project with that. So it's quite a wide range of things, but very much behaviour change is about enabling people to walk, to cycle, to scoot, to wheel, and using the infrastructure that we have in place that Holly will come on to talk about later on. So I'm going to talk briefly about active travel, what it is, why we need it and why we need more of it. And then a little bit of an overview of kind of the theory behind behaviour change and how that slots into some of the things that we do within Suffolk County Council. So if you will bear with me, I will share my screen, and Claire, if you'd be kind enough to give me a thumbs up when it looks like you can see the PowerPoint, please. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen now and a slideshow. Does that look okay to everyone? Yeah, I haven't heard any no's, so I'm assuming that you can see that. Super. So the way to go is our brand within Suffolk County Council. We are, as I say, part of transport strategy within Suffolk County Council, but the local authorities don't always receive the warmest reception in all of the areas that we work in. So we feel that a brand that differentiates us and explains what we do is perhaps useful at times. Right, let's see, are we clicking? So what is active travel? Everyday journeys, walking, wheeling, scooting, cycling. You could probably get 10 people in a room and come up with 10 different forms of active travel. It includes trips that are very definitely made on foot, pedal cycles, e-cycles or e-bikes as we know them. There is some debate around this, but there's quite a lot of evidence that suggests when people purchase an e-bike or use an e-bike, they tend to use it more than perhaps if they had a conventional cycle. So actually the exercise benefit over time and the mileage covered is really quite useful. Adapted cycles. We have a project in Stowmarket where we have a range of different cycles suitable for people with differing physical needs. So it can be a side-by-side three-wheeler that someone could go on with a parent or carer. It could be a hand cycle. We've got a couple of tricycle tandems. So all adapted cycles to enable people to sort of get out on the road and be active. Wheelchairs are active travel. Foot scooters, so probably what you see when you envisage sort of 6-7-year-olds going to school and whizzing away in front of their parents or carers and being told to mind that road. Skateboards, roller skates, the list goes on. Now, when you Google what active travel is and includes, you will find that some definitions would include mobility scooters. So the sort of four-wheeler scooters that people use, especially around things like shop mobility. I am very purist about it, and for the purposes of the definition of tonight, I tend to exclude them because although they're a reasonably sustainable method of people travelling, they don't involve any activity, any physical activity. And the other thing I've excluded here is e-scooters. And I was at a road safety meeting, regional road safety meeting earlier today, where there were several raised eyebrows about sort of, the accidents, and we were comparing statistics around them. E-scooters are great in terms of a sustainable travel mode. They particularly appeal to younger people, and it helps to sort of get them out of cars, perhaps. However, we've all seen press articles that suggest that there are challenges around how they're parked, how they're left in the street, around people using them on the pavement when they are actually a vehicle that should be used on the road, etc., etc. So I haven't included e-scooters in my definition either. And active travel has the potential to tackle a whole range of conditions. And I've mentioned already in terms of our social prescribing, what we look to do, but obesity, heart disease, improvements in air quality. And air quality is quite an interesting thing. It's surprising how many people's quality of life is affected by air quality annually, and how many people's lives are cut short by poor air quality. It is very much an invisible killer, and something that certainly in our more urban areas we do need to be working to improve. And obviously net zero and climate change, a huge thing that active and sustainable travel can help to support. And what about the bus? Well, I kind of do include the bus in active travel because most people will walk at least at one end of a bus journey and quite possibly both ends of a bus journey. And indeed, if you've been around Ipswich for the last few months, you may see that there's a campaign on Ipswich buses that says that people who use the bus tend on average to get about 20 minutes of active travel from that journey. So buses, they count as active travel, even though perhaps the longest part of the journey involves sitting down, not doing much apart from looking out the window. So hopefully that gives you a flavour for what active travel is. So I've talked about climate change. Active travel can hugely benefit climate change, and I'll come on to some of the statistics around that shortly. This slide is a year or so out of date, but it still stands. Here's a page from the East Anglian Daily Times, or part of a page, looking at the extremes of weather that we had in 2021. When this slide was put together, 2020 was the joint warmest year on record. Since I put this together, we now know that 2023 has been the warmest year on record globally. So now we've had 3 out of the last 8 years are the sort of 2-3 warmest years on record at the end of the warmest decade on record. We know that the Paris Climate Change Accord looked to limit global temperatures ideally to 1.5 degrees C in terms of the increase, and we're now looking to be exceeding that relatively soon. And I believe that in the last year, with the effect of El Nino, that has now been met, and it's believed that will now drop back for a few years. But we're knocking at the door of something that we didn't want to get to before 2100, if ever. And I'll come on to some of the additional effects that going past that 1.5 degrees C increase in global temperatures are likely to cause. And then there's a personal cost to all of this. I live in Debenham. We had some huge flooding about this time last year, last October, from Storm Babette, as did people in Framlingham and elsewhere in the county. And you can see there that there's likely to be a huge increase in the cost of managing, preventing, and clearing up after flooding as we move forwards. And if we don't do anything to mitigate against climate change. So there's a whole lot of reasons to travel actively for those smaller journeys where we can. I mentioned the 1.5 degrees C and limiting the change to that. So if we go above that, that's the difference between nearly 3/4 of the world's coral reefs dying, which sounds horrendous until you realise that the alternative is nearly all of them dying. So, do you want some coral reef left or none? Double the likelihood that vital pollinators lose their habitat, and that obviously has a knock-on effect in terms of crop production around the world. The difference between having no ice in the Arctic Ocean once per century as opposed to once per decade, so a 10-fold increase there, and an extra 1 metre rise in sea level, which can affect another 10 million people living in coastal communities. So some of the some impacts, there are obviously many more, but some of the impacts that will be the difference between limiting the global increase to 1.5 degrees or going above it. So a reason for all of us to try and do our bit and to try and do more to limit that temperature increase. What about transport then? Where does it come into all of this? Well, across Suffolk, the district, borough and county councils have all declared a climate emergency and have a plan to get towards carbon neutral by 2030. And all the public sector leaders have signed up to that pledge. And there's a lot of work going on. Part of us being here tonight is part of that in order to achieve that goal. Transport, a huge greenhouse gas emitter. And more than half of those greenhouse gas emissions come from cars and taxis. So when we drill down into that, the government set a target for half of all journeys in towns and cities to be made by walking or cycling by the end of this decade. And drilling down into that, at the moment, over half of car journeys are under 5 miles and a quarter 2 miles. So why are those distances significant? Well, it's generally accepted that a journey of up to 5 miles is something that the majority of people, perhaps with a bit of support, with a bit of enablement, could make by bike or e-bike. And then the 2 mile journey, same thing, the majority of people with a bit of support, with a bit of lifestyle change, could make by walking. So, massive opportunity here. And I think I'd take that really as a positive, that there's a huge amount of change to go for. And we can really impact climate change when we start to sort of get stuck into these figures and bring about the change that we need to see. What are the benefits from active travel? Well, apart from climate change, financial benefits. So there are some costs there of typical commuting costs. Now, I suspect that we would struggle to find anyone in the east of England who spends exactly £947.16 per year on commuting. I suspect it's much more polarised than that. It's either going to be someone who spends a couple £100 because they're walking and it's a new pair of shoes every 6 months, or someone who's spending 3,000 or 4,000 and spending a lot of time sitting in their car queuing into Ipswich or Lowestoft or Bury St Edmunds. So an average figure there, but nevertheless a significant sum of money. And particularly when we're all looking at costs of living and some people's finances are being challenged at the moment. Physical benefits. So I'm sure you're well aware that the government recommended level of moderate activity is 150 minutes a week. If you can achieve that, it reduces the risk of mortality, but also significant reductions in some of those chronic diseases that I mentioned earlier, so stroke, diabetes, heart disease. It's a magic button that says, we could get rid of a third of those conditions if people who aren't getting that 150 minutes of moderate exercise, if we could help them and support them to get up to that level. And then well-being. So we talked about mental health earlier, and people who travel in an active way consistently report feeling better for it compared to the stress of those who perhaps drive to work. And let's be clear about this. We're talking about short journeys here. We're not talking about getting rid of every car on the road. That's completely unrealistic. And cars are an important generator of economic growth and economic activity. But what we need to do is take out the journeys that we can take out, and then we get that benefit both to the climate, but also to the individual. More benefits. There are benefits if you're an employer, your staff, if you can enable active travel as an employer and provide the facilities to help your staff travel actively. So that could be shower rooms, secure bike parking, a drying room for wet clothes, that kind of thing. The payback for that is significantly less sick days from your employees. So well worth investing as a business and supporting employees to travel actively. And then also as a business, the cost of congestion. So again, a bit like that commuting cost. I suspect that there's no business that we could point to that says it cost them exactly 17,000 a year. I live opposite a greengrocer's shop. I doubt congestion costs him £17,000 a year. Equally, there's a large Amazon depot on the outskirts of Ipswich where the sugar beet factory used to be. I bet it cost them significantly more than 17,000 a year. So by getting out of our cars and onto our bikes, our skateboards, our scooters and our feet, we can reduce congestion, and that has knock-on benefits for wider society. And then there's the health benefit. Yes.
I have a question. Do you mind if I jump in now whilst we're thinking about it?
Yes, because I'm on a single screen, so I can't see any hands. That's all right. So I'll rely on you.
No problem. Seamus has asked, the stats about cars and taxis. He asks, what effect is the growing prevalence of electric vehicles having on the figures that you've given us just now? If you want to, Seamus, expand on that just now, please feel free to come off your mic. Otherwise, Chris, so the effect of the prevalence of electric cars having on those figures that you've just mentioned.
Yeah, sure.
I'm happy to leave. I'm happy to leave it with other questions maybe until the end, Chris. That might let your flow continue.
That's fine. I haven't got specific figures about that rate of change. We have just
the previous slide, I think.
Yeah, we have just got the it was that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, this one.
So we have just got the feedback on the Suffolk County Council Travel to Work survey, and we know that the use of electric cars is increasing, and there is a big project ongoing at the moment. I haven't got figures for what difference they will be making at the moment. I think there is clearly a benefit compared to internal combustion engines. However, we need to remember that something like 50% or so of our electricity is still generated by fossil fuels. And I was at a convention last year where someone was sort of relating probably a slightly apocryphal story about how his friend was talking about his new Tesla and how clean it was. There was no exhaust pipe, to which this chap produced a picture of the cooling towers of Ferrybridge Power Station up on the M62 junction and said, there's your exhaust pipe.
Some exhaust pipe. It's also the rate of introduction. I mean, the phasing out of diesel and petrol is going to take a heck of a long. It's going to take couple of decades or more, isn't it? So
yeah,
I'm not saying that it diminishes what anything you're saying. I was just sort of curious.
No, it's absolutely valid. Electric cars help, I suppose, from my personal perspective, and this isn't from a Suffolk County Council perspective, they are either the worst of the best solutions or the best of the worst solutions, in that they are cleaner, they still cause congestion, they still don't help people reach that 150 minutes of activity a week, but they are a good thing compared to a car with an internal combustion engine.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Get back to where we were. So I think it was here. They're saying switching to active travel for those short journeys of under 5 miles could benefit the NHS to the value of £17 billion over the next couple of decades. And that could go a long way towards really transforming care in other areas. So again, a societal benefit from people switching en masse. So now I'm going to talk about changing behaviour, a little bit about behaviour change theory, or there are various theories around behaviour change. The one that tends to be used for active travel and the Department for Transport use is called COM-B. So the B stands for behaviour. Let's go through the other letters. So the C stands for capability. These are the psychological and physical abilities that someone needs to be able to participate in active travel. A couple of examples there of some of the objections people might have. So can you ride a bike? That's a capability. And all of these 3 elements need to fall in place in order for us to get sustained behaviour change. Then we talk about opportunity, so the environment around people, and that can mean the physical environment in the sense that if you can't afford a bike, you can't ride a bike to school or to work, but it can also be cultural norms, and certain cultures, cycling and active travel in general tend to be far less prevalent, and we know particularly that people with disability, women, people from ethnic minorities all tend to cycle less and be less active than white men. So we need to look at enabling groups where it's not necessarily intrinsic within that group for people to travel actively. And then motivation, so the M bit. So these are intentions and habits. These are some of the harder ones for us as a local authority to sort of help inspire people with, and people need to do a little bit of work, and when we can help people and guide people into sort of setting those goals and working on those habits. And then there's a couple of examples there. At the moment, one that we have had some success with is the financial habit. What we've also found is helping people and advising people around routines. I'm a classic example of this. I live in Debenham. Once or twice a week, I ride to the office in Ipswich. It's about 50-55 minutes. If I drive, it's about 30 to 35 minutes. If I go to bed thinking I'll wake up in the morning and I might cycle, I invariably don't. If I get my panniers out, check my bike tyres are pumped up, get my cycling shorts out and leave them by the side of the bed, I do cycle the next day. There's a classic example of how we can help kind of create some of these motivations and habits. And so I say we need all 3 of these elements in place in order to be able to help create the behaviour change that we want to achieve. And so here are some of the things that we do as a team around supporting and enabling that work. We offer free learn to ride sessions for both children and adults. I mentioned the bikeability that we deliver in schools. We are recruiting more instructors. By the end of October, we will have about 70 cycling instructors working within Suffolk County Council, helping more people to be able to access riding a bike. We offer free family cycling sessions. So it's quite a source of frustration to the team that we put these 4,000 young people through their bikeability each year, and we give them a certificate that says, that's great, you can turn right, you can look, you can pull out safely. We believe you can ride safely on the road now. And the first thing that happens is they get home and their parents put the bike away and say, we're not riding to school, it's not safe. So what we want to try and do now is, once we've done that training with these young people, work with them and their families, take their families out, do the routes to school, do the routes to the shop, and help the parents and carers see that actually cycling is pretty safe and their children are competent to do these short journeys. And let's not forget that cycling and walking and skateboarding, all of these active travel modes, as a young person, they're really enabling. It's really important as a young person to have that sense of independence. It's good for young people's mental well-being, and we know that mental health amongst young people seems to be declining year on year. So anything we can do around helping create and sustain that independence is a good thing. And then moving on to opportunity, we offer free electric bike trials. We're working through a lot of businesses across the county. We've had over 150 people this year have had an e-bike to try free of charge for a month, so they can get a real flavour for it. They can really see what it does for them. We launched a pilot project in Lowestoft where over 2 schools, about 55 year 5 pupils have been given a loan bike for the year. They've been taught to ride it. They've been put through their bike ability. And we were very proud last Sunday. We had the Tour of Britain, came to East Suffolk. The last stage started in Lowestoft and finished in Felixstowe. And we had our groups of year 5s in Lowestoft leading the tour out along Lowestoft seafront on their loan bikes with their newfound cycling skills. Again, very important. We're working in a very deprived area. We've given them the opportunity to cycle. We've taught them. And now we're going to leave the bikes with them for a year so they can really put that into practice. They can really get used to that. And hopefully at the end of that year, they'll be in the position, circumstances, their parents or carers will have seen actually this is important for them. We need to find a way to facilitate further use of a bike. And then we can put people in touch with some of the cycle recycling businesses across the county that will do up and sell at a very modest price a second-hand bike. Again, opportunity, we do free bike fix courses, and we also teach people how to fix bikes. Again, going back to the young people in Lowestoft, it's great, here's a bike for a year, off you go. Actually, what happens if you get a puncture and your mum, your dad, your carer can't fix a puncture? It sits in the shed for the rest of that year. So we need, again, to enable, to make sure that people have got all the tools in order to sustain this behaviour change. And then in Ipswich and Lowestoft at the moment, and I think it's Stowmarket and Stowmarket, I'm not sure in Felixstowe at the moment, but Stowmarket, we're offering group rides and group walks on a regular basis, certainly weekly in Ipswich and Lowestoft. And this is something that we're looking to push out more widely around the county as we start to roll out more community walking and cycling hubs. And group rides, as well as opportunities, that's changing some of these cultural norms. And we've got a great example from our social prescribing project in Ipswich. With us from the beginning of this year, we had 5 ladies from southern India, slightly nervously came along, all independently, didn't know each other, and were interested in getting out and being more active. And they formed a group, and they ended up, here we are 8-9 months later, they've got a really tight-knit group. They're all on WhatsApp together, and now some of them are starting to volunteer as ride leaders for us. And they've really developed, again, that independence and that sense of social cohesion that has overcome the cultural norms that they grew up with. And then motivation. So I've talked about how we can help with goal setting and reflection and how they form habits. And then we talked to people about motivation. So I've talked about the financial benefits, but actually, what about the me time benefits? If you can go out walking with a friend, spend some friend time or some me time, that's a benefit to you as an individual. So maybe that could be your motivation. Maybe you've got a busy work life, a busy home life, and actually setting some time for half an hour of me time where you can kind of process what's happening in your life, think about things, and get some good physical activity is the motivation that you need. So all sorts of opportunities for people for us to help them. And then I mentioned earlier the accessible cycles that we have available for trial. So this is how we're putting the pieces of the puzzle in place around some of the infrastructure that's sort of in place and coming into place across the county. And I'll leave you with a couple of images. So I mentioned our group of ladies from southern India, and there's a couple of them there. You can see some riding for a young person learning to ride, and then cargo bikes. So doing the school run in a slightly alternative way is something, again, that we can help with. So we'll be sharing this, as Claire mentioned, on the Greens County website. So I'll pop some contact details up there, and please feel free to get in touch. Now, I'm going to stop screen sharing now. If anyone has any immediate questions about that, feel free to jump in now. And if not, we'll pass over to Holly.
Yeah, so anyone have any questions for Chris at this point? Wow, your explanations were absolutely A1, Chris. Oh, a hand up from Seamus. Seamus, would you like to go ahead? You're on a mic off, by the way, at the moment, Seamus. Still can't hear you. Turn your mic on. If you can't do that, you could always... Right, okay, Seamus, sorry about that. We can't actually hear you. Do you want to write it in the chat and then I can offer it to them later? That's not a problem. Lovely. No more wanting. Lovely. Okay. So what I'm going to say then is, Chris, who did you say next up?
So over to Holly next, please.
Holly. So Holly, would you like to introduce yourself and then, yeah, let us know what you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So yeah, my name's Holly. So my team works alongside Chris's at Suffolk County Council. We focus more on like the infrastructure for walking, cycling, active travel. So more about kind of the stuff that you see on the ground, really. I guess just to introduce myself, a little background about me as well. Like I previously worked in urban planning, focusing really on like green and healthy places. So definitely sort of on the same wavelength, I think, in terms of the climate change agenda and things. And more recently been researching how children get around their neighbourhoods and their travel patterns and behaviours. So obviously a lot of what Chris touched on was about those things we're doing in schools and with children, which I think is so important in just setting those behaviours in early life. And of course, children are the people who can't drive. So just so important for that reason. I'm going to just talk today sort of quite broadly. We've got various different strands and projects relating to active travel and things we're trying to deliver and build across the county. But I'm just going to try and talk more broadly because I want you to think a bit more creatively, I guess, about what you can do in Suffolk with regards to kind of how we maybe make changes within active travel and how you can feed into our schemes as they come forward and as maybe they're in your area or your neck of the woods that you know. We've also got John here who will talk a little bit once I've gone through some slides about some of the work he's doing to help to visualize some of these changes too, which I think is so important. But yeah, I mean, one of the things we really rely on for all of our projects is that local knowledge. And so I think, you know, you guys are probably some of the best people to feed in. So just trying to help you understand how you can help to engage with us and yeah, help to inform what we do really. And yeah, linking to what Chris was just saying about behaviour change, I think the work that we do really fits into this opportunity bit in the middle. So I definitely think I don't agree with the phrase build it and they will come. They definitely won't. So we need Chris as team to be doing that work alongside us. But I think we also do need to build it in the first place often. So what my team tries to do is like look at building stuff that will help people to walk and cycle more, but I definitely admit that just doing that in its own right won't necessarily change behaviours. So we need it to sort of work as a bit more of a package. So this is just a few points that are taken from the government guidance on how we should be delivering cycle infrastructure, but I think it applies to walking too, really. So when we're looking at like how we improve walking and cycling routes across the county, these are some of the points we're thinking about. So it needs to be coherent. It needs to make sense to people. Like if you have like a route that isn't sort of the most direct, which is the next point, going in the right direction, people will usually find another way of going. And you often see that, like you might have a park that's got like a path around the edge, and then you see like the grass worn out cutting across the middle because people are taking the desire line, the most direct, coherent route. But I mean, a key thing for us is also making sure it's safe. And alongside that they're comfortable and attractive for people to use. So this image here is taken from that government guidance. It's just showing some examples of where that hasn't been embedded. These aren't necessarily perfect. I don't think there are like perfect examples. Some of them are a little bit old, but it gives you an idea of the sort of things we can do. And just to kind of say that with this, there isn't like a one size fits all either. It's I guess quite well. It's objective in terms of it depends on how much traffic you've got on a route, how fast the traffic's moving. So it really depends on the context, the type of thing we might build and we might deliver. So if you've got a very quiet road, then we might not need to do as much to make it safe and comfortable and attractive. If it's a busier road, we might need to think about different measures to make it that way. So we're always thinking about the context and also, you know, where it is. Is it in a residential neighbourhood? Is it sort of through a park? Like what's going on around it as well? And I've just stolen some examples. This is from the Suffolk Streets Design Guide. So it's our own guidance that we often use when we comment on planning applications and also use it to inform some of the projects that we're working on. So I've just sort of taken some images from that guide just to kind of give you an idea of how it can look. So this one is where you've got some sort of segregated cycling provision, it would be called. On the left-hand side, it's a little bit stepped up, which is in theory safer. On the right-hand side, it's probably like the worst sort of type that we could deliver, which has been delivered historically, but we try to avoid now, where you just get a bit of paint on the road. It doesn't really give you that much protection, especially if it's a busy road. So we're always looking to try and sort of improve designs as well that have maybe happened in the past. So that's kind of one option. And then some other options where you would kind of separate cyclists and people walking a bit more significantly from traffic. So here you've got kind of a cycle route that is sort of going both ways on one side of the road. You've also got this nice sort of greenery in the middle, which is not only providing some flood mitigation, but also, you know, making it look more attractive, creating a bit of shade and all those things that we know green does. So this is, I think, a much nicer example. But unfortunately, where we're trying to retrofit these sort of things, we don't always have the space to provide that. And then the one at the top here is where you've got a bit more of a shared use space. So maybe where we don't expect lots of people to be cycling, this might be appropriate. So you can sort of accommodate some walking, some cycling. Again, I think that can work really well, especially for children walking to school or cycling to school, where parents might be walking alongside them or something. And then here's another example which you might see on like a very quiet road, ideally with quite low traffic speeds, where we sort of decide, well, maybe it is actually safe to just say you can cycle on the road, but we would only really want to encourage that where traffic volumes are very low and speeds are very low. So again, it's kind of thinking about the context, and yeah, and I think in this case, making sure that the pavement is always suitable for walking. And you've always got a pavement there, which again, it historically isn't always the case. And I know in a lot of our villages, for example, just a lack of pavement means that people really struggle to walk around those. So certainly now we're always trying to make sure that is a provision. So although often we think of active travel as maybe a lot about cycling, I think walking is a really important part of it. And then the other thing that's really important is crossings. So I was just talking about really routes and sort of getting from A to B, but often actually it's just getting across a road that is the biggest barrier for people, both walking and cycling. And certainly when I did my research with children on how they get around, obviously children are a little bit smaller, they don't have quite as good skills in terms of sort of gauging traffic and things. Not having a crossing point could make the difference between them walking or having to get a lift with their parent, and that's so critical, I think. And again, there's different types of crossing we can build in. Where we've got a busier road, we might put a zebra in or even a signal crossing. But we're also looking at just putting some of these sort of raised table crossings where you just raise up the road a little bit. You give a level crossing then for people walking or potentially cycling, and you just hopefully slow vehicles down and make them a little bit more aware of people there. Again, that's sort of only appropriate in certain settings. You wouldn't find that on a really busy main road, but on quieter roads, on side roads, that sort of approach can work quite well. We're trying to sort of encourage drivers as well to just be more aware of people walking and cycling. And then finally, I just wanted to mention these 10 healthy streets indicators. So this is something that a woman called Lucy Saunders has developed, but I think really important in terms of when we're thinking about infrastructure for walking and cycling. Again, we sometimes just think about like segregated cycle tracks, and that's it really. But actually, I think it's more about just creating nicer spaces and rethinking our streets as public spaces for all. So I really like this Healthy Streets wheel. There's a whole website on healthy streets that you could look up and have a play around with. You can even now, I think, assess your own street and see how it comes up. But it just gets us to think about the street a little bit differently, thinking about things like, where's there space for shade? Is there space to sit down? How noisy is it? Do you feel relaxed there? You know, is there clean air? All those things that we know are really important, but just sort of starting to rethink that street space as a bit more of a public space. And I think when we do that, that's another sort of really strong argument to bring in walking and cycling into the equation. So I was going to hand over to John now, although I don't know if there's been a technical issue to try and show some visuals and things about how what he's been working on. But
well, we've had a couple of people who say they can't see the slides. I'm admitting John back in now. Is it Georgina can't see them either, but they're here for me. Is this? I'll just make sure these guys are off the are back using their cameras, etc.
Yeah.
Now they're back in. Is everybody else okay with the slides?
Yep, I can see them.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's individual. I
don't know, because I did it as Teams.
Yeah.
If it's using more bandwidth or something.
Right. These are the people without cameras on. And the only thing I've suggested is go in and out. It hasn't worked.
Yeah.
We are recording, so this will be available to you if we haven't got any other answers at the moment to help it get better for you. It's strange that half the people can, well, most people can, but a couple can't. So
maybe we can see if John's slides work better, I guess.
We'll have a look to see what that is. Not a problem. Can I just get a couple of questions in whilst we're waiting for John, who can give me the thumbs up in a minute? Right, let me go back. Seamus has asked a couple. Seamus, actually, do you want to pose them yourself if you're back in?
I'm back in, yeah. Just suddenly, if I disappear again, it's not that I've got upset.
That's all right. Go ahead.
So I think Chris has answered the one I asked about the cycling hubs. I think he's written a response to that. There was a question about the those nice looking grey, sort of not too steep hump things. Are they expensive? I think this one on the top right of that.
I'll talk about camels for a minute.
I popped a note in the chat about that as well, Seamus, although I think Holly will probably be better informed than I am.
Yeah.
It was Holly, because I'm just looking at a couple of schools locally where it's difficult to do too much, but just some awareness of speed, like just in front, in that sort of couple 100 meters in front of the school. Possible solution.
I mean, I think, I don't know for sure, but in general, we find when you're building on top of the carriageway, there's less that can go wrong. So should be sort of a better option than some. Well, I think, I mean, they do slow vehicles down, as kind of Chris has said in the chat. There is that concern sometimes that if you've got vehicles kind of speeding and then really slowing down, then they create a bit of noise pollution and things. But I think it's all about balance and priorities.
They're quite shallow, aren't they? They're not steep, are they, those?
No, I mean, you can, there's loads of different options and design options, but I think, if you can have it shallower, that probably works better. And it's about sort of combining it maybe with appropriate signage or other things as well to make people aware of it. We're certainly looking at doing that sort of thing on a lot of side roads, like at side road entrances, exits, because in theory now, pedestrians do have priority on those side roads over vehicles if you're trying to cross, but that doesn't always happen. And maybe this sort of design gives you that level access, so it's more inclusive, and it also hopefully slows vehicles down a little bit. So I think they're one of the cheaper options. I don't know exactly how much they are though.
Just a little extra, I've popped in something called the School Streets Initiative, Seamus, because you mentioned something about schools. Don't know whether you know about it, but it's restricting.
I do know about it. Yeah,
lovely. Okay,
it sounds good, but it may not apply.
Yeah. So for everybody else, the link is in there, and it's restricting and changing modal priorities at different times in the day by school.
And it's worth just jumping in, Claire, if I may.
Yeah.
It's worth saying we have this year launched the first 2 school streets in Suffolk. They're in Ipswich, both Ranelagh Primary School and Moorland Primary School. And we are happy to consider other sites. It's very much a case that it is led by the school with advice and support from us. It's not a kind of Suffolk County Council top-down implementation, but we're happy to talk to any schools and look at feasibility. And just going back to Seamus talking about the sort of the speed tables there, etc. I think one thing all of us have to be aware of in our line of work is the law of unintended consequences. And I was recently shown an area where we had built out a crossing so that it narrowed the road effectively. It chicaned the road, so it provided a wider area on the pavement so more school children could cross at that point. You'd have thought it made it safer. Actually, the effect it's had is that because it's narrower, drivers race towards it to get through before the car coming the other way.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it, that? And I think that's very much part of the behavioural considerations that we have to look at and evaluate. I noticed Leslie's got a hand up. So Leslie, do you want to come off of onto mic and fire away? Mic is still on, Leslie. That's it.
I tapped it too fast, sorry. Yeah, I'm in a village, so I'm just curious to see what your thoughts are about safe cycling in a village environment, because obviously we haven't got enough space for cycle lanes or anything like that, and it's quite dangerous through our village. I mean, there are lots of cars parked, which makes a sort of chicane, I suppose, to slow vehicles down, but I don't think people are cycling because they feel it's unsafe. And I work with the Eco School Committee at Glemsford Primary Academy, and they've just got the Green Flag Award, actually, which is really good, with distinction.
Fantastic.
But we still have to work on things, and I think the next priority is going to be transport, and they'd like to see more of the children coming to school perhaps on a bike. So one plan is possibly to use the village hall car park as a sort of hub, and then the children get escorted to school, something like that. But I don't know, is there anything like this going on in a village anywhere in Suffolk, or is it all towns?
There is certainly sort of those questions being asked and things that we can do and that are on our radar. I think in a village setting, like you say, you're not going to get that. You don't really need those separated cycle lanes. I think what we need to look at is how we can slow down vehicles, especially because that, like I said, that makes it safer. And potentially also looking for those quieter routes. And I mean, it was shared at the very start, that East Suffolk initiative, basically it seems like that's looking at like off-road routes for walking, cycling. So again, often we sort of think, oh, the only way is that road that everyone drives down, but maybe actually there's a better way that is already quieter, or that we can do something with to improve it to make it suitable. So I think it's looking at reducing speeds, ideally reducing traffic volumes, making sure there's at least sort of some safe space for walking, and then trying to make it safe for cycling, probably on the road in those instances.
Yeah, there are pavements. We've got pavements, but the school is actually on the main road through the village, and the whole village is built around the main road that runs through the village. So I guess we're a special category. I don't know, but I know the children at the school have been doing bikeability, and like you say, probably they will not be then going out again because their parents won't let them, I should think. But anyway, we'll see. We'll probably do some surveys when we start this new action. And see what
there are so many challenges, isn't there, Chris? Just being aware that we're now on 10-2.
Yeah,
I'm
and I was just
happy
conscious
to
that
stay over, and John needs to go.
So,
but don't let that stop the conversations if you want to chat. But
no, I should say, Chris, if Leslie do get in touch with us, if you pick up our email from when the slides are shared, and drop us a note, because we do a lot of work with schools.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. Well, thank you ever so much for the interaction so far. It really makes for webinars like this added interest in the degree of level of information we get over. I'll hand over now to John. John, are you happy to introduce yourself and your slides to present?
I am. Yes, because I couldn't see the other ones. I was going to say I'll try and share mine, and hopefully that'll work. Otherwise, it's going to be interesting because I'm going to have to try and do this without actually seeing what I'm presenting. And it being a visualization tool, that's going to add a dimension. But anyway, yes. Hello, my name's John Little. I am actually a former resident of Lowestoft. I was brought up there and lived most of my young life there. So, sharing the love with the good kids of Lowestoft is something I can wholeheartedly support. Hopefully you can see that this is what I'm going to talk about. So cool, excellent, that's a good start. So can I. So we're winning. So with no further ado, let me get on with the slide. Oh, hang on, that's not going out slideshow mode, isn't it? There we go. Right. So Beat Streets was formed in, I'm going to have to look at that screen, I'm afraid. It's all getting a bit weird. It was formed in 2021 with the aim of disrupting street design and visualization and urban and public realm design. To be honest, we made an app which is basically a street design tool for anyone, or so we think, or we like to think. It enables basically users to combine photos of street locations and basically create a kind of visual of how they think a place could be changed. I will all be revealed in a moment. But we've basically made it to redefine the way street design works, make it more open, accessible, etc., etc. I work in the industry. I get shouted at a lot at community centres on Wednesday nights, people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, and they'd be better at designing it than I am. So we made a tool that hopefully lets them do so. As you can see, it's basically based on its photo imagery. So it's a photo of the Olympic Park near where I live in East London. And once you set the photo up in the 2-dimensional version that we've got at the moment, you then just basically drag and drop stuff from the library of things, as we call it, on the side there, which is basically all the lines and signs and stuff that we use in street design, but also curbs, bins, cycle parking things. There's a paving pattern being extended at the moment. It's all drag and drop. This is slightly sped up, but it's basically not far off effectively how you use the product. So you drag and drop stuff in. That's the cycle parking hanger from Cycle Hoop. Some of the products are animated and actually have links back to where you actually buy them. So you can, if you're really interested as designers, use it as basically a kind of design tool. So we try to make it so it's useful for people who work in our industry and do what I do every day. And also people like who are on the call here. So these are some of the examples, some of the images that people have made. London Cycling Campaign, Newham did some temporary. Basically, I mean, we designed it and made this software during lockdown because we were being asked so much by people, what would it look like if? Or I was trying to explain to people, if we close a road with trees in pots, give it a couple of years, you might have something slightly more exciting on your hands. But of course, people can't quite see past what you're showing them when it's trees in pots. Definitely can't see what you mean when you show them a 2-dimensional drawing. So we've kind of made this software with the idea that it opens up the process and hopefully gets far more people involved. The reason I'm telling you, and I will skip this this is the way I sell myself talking about what I've done, but basically myself and Andy, my business partner, made this software on the back. We worked together years ago in London Cycle Hub. We did the first 650 docking station designs, but I'm kind of best known for writing the Waltham Forest Mini Holland bid, 11, 12 years ago now. I've worked in Manchester on the B Network, Lambeth on the Liverpool neighbourhoods, and helped Suffolk actually with their Woodbridge plans last year. This project we're talking about, working with Suffolk County Council and a company called Cyclomedia, who provide kind of like Google Street View imagery, but on steroids, basically. Really high quality 360-degree imagery to governments and cities around the world. We've been talking with them as they like our software, basically, and we've been talking to them a little bit. And an opportunity arose that unfortunately I've not been able to talk about until now, and I can't really tell you the full story until October the 8th, I believe. But basically what I can say is we've been successful working with Suffolk and Cyclomedia to get some funding from the Connected Places Catapult. This has enabled us to build a purpose-built version of our software. We've basically used one of those kind of street view cars, driven around Suffolk, taken loads of imagery of lots of some of the main cycle routes, primarily between Ipswich and Felixstowe and Woodbridge, and some of the green lanes around Grundsborough and the Beelings and that kind of area, west of the A12. We do actually have some other imagery as well, but we've primarily taken that imagery, and we've built basically a version of our platform that's going to be used by Suffolk officers, and anyone on this call is interested, and anyone who lives in the area who wants to have a go, either online or with us at exhibitions, to kind of have a play around and see what you can do where you live. I won't go through all this because we haven't got time, but the challenge and the aim and kind of the objectives that we're answering are kind of linked to DFT objectives and stuff that I can't really talk about anyway, so you'll have to pretend you haven't heard or seen all this. But this is kind of the objectives around what we're trying to do, trying to explain how we disrupt our industry. You can talk about it on October the 8th, by all means, please do, but just until then, just you can reach out, you can sign up, I'll explain what's going on with that, but just don't tell the Lowestoft Journal yet. So this is kind of the area, these are the routes, the ones in green that we've got the latest data for in imagery. We do have some more that we can probably get hold of. I appreciate that's not the most detailed image, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea of the routes that we've kind of chosen the regional cycle network kind of thing, NCM1 and 51, and I forget the other numbers, apologies. And then those area of green lanes, because quiet lanes, sorry, because Active Travel England are interested in, and going back to Leslie's comments about what can we do in the countryside to make it safe for walking and cycling, it is something that Active Travel England and people like me are interested in at the moment. And there is a rural design guide on the way, and certainly we hope our software will help with that. I'm going to give you a real sneak peek now that you haven't seen, okay, and hopefully somebody, Claire, can make the recording self-destruct or something at some stage, but here we go. This is a real sneak preview of what you people will have access to if you're so interested. So sorry, it's a bit juddery at the moment. We're still going through the testing stage, but it will effectively allow you to grab a image and basically you can highlight. So it says you can highlight areas where you think there's an issue. So this junction is really dangerous, is the text box being written in at the moment, and then that's linked to one of the Street View sort of style images in the software, and your comment will appear like a pin. And additionally, as it says, users can create and share their own 360-degree design. So it's just like Street View, but because my business partner's a bit of a maths wizard, effectively you grab a 3D model from our library and just place it. So if you think that a bench should be there at that bus stop, you can put one there. You can rotate it so it's facing the right way in a sec. And of course, because people are going to be sitting there waiting for a bus after having actively walked to that bus stop, you'll need a bin to throw your apple in while waiting for the bus. So there you go. Yeah, as I say, this is basically the platform that people have access to. So you're seeing a real, like, earlier today rendered version of this. So as I say, it's a bit rough around the edges, but effectively it will enable you to identify issues. So places that you nearly got run over when you last tried to walk out of the village with your dog, or places that you think a crossing could go, or a place that you think a cycle stand is missing, or whatever. And then if people suggest things, you can agree with them or not and have a bit of a chat on there. And then basically agree with people's comments and the like, as you see there. And then you can have a look at your mate's idea about putting the bus stop bench in, and you can agree with that one because you've stood there yourself and waited for the X19 or whatever to come along for half an hour yourself in the rain. It includes all the TSR GD signs and lines and all the stuff that people, all you frustrated traffic engineers out there, will need in order to create your kind of utopias in Felixstowe or wherever you're trying to sort out. It's based upon my experience and Andy's experiences working as traffic engineers and trying to involve people in the process. Collaborative design is kind of something that I pride myself on being reasonably good at. We've had a version of our software available for 3 years of free version of it, and we've taken feedback. All we've asked for really from people is feedback when they've used the free demo. We've used all that information to then basically feed into the revision of the product. It's browser based, so we can continually update it, which really helps us keep it fresh. We can add new products and new stuff to the library at any time. There's no software install, so it's basically just like, provided you've got a reasonably good internet connection, you can use our software. We will be going on tour with it as such. We've got to speak to Holly and Chris, and again, my sob story about not being able to talk about the project is basically linked to the election and Purdah and whatever else happened in the last few months. And it's been a bit annoying because we've not been able to talk about it as much as we'd have liked to in the lead up to it. We did go to the tour of Britain and met Chris and colleagues there and tried to show people a bit what's going on there at the moment. But there is a sign up at the moment on SurveyMonkey if you want to find out more. Basically, we're hoping people sign up on there. Please, Claire, send it around with your, you sound like a reasonably well connected person. I'd love to have a bit more of a chat with you maybe next week about how we can find some more people to take part in this pilot. We're basically going to have some workshops in probably Felixstowe, Ipswich, Woodbridge, wherever people want to come and see us, so we can help you there and sort of hold the mouse together and do hopefully some cool design stuff. You people who take part in the pilot will also have access to the platform and be able to kind of do their own kind of issue identification ideas and all that at their leisure. And council officers will obviously will hopefully be taking part as well. And on the professional side, as I said, it's a design tool for everyone, as we hope. So the idea is that people who do street design as a day job can do things in a matter of minutes when it used to take days to do visualizations like that. And somebody who's never ever been let loose on the streets before but really wants to have a go at putting those speed humps in can have a crack. So anyway, hopefully that was a reasonably good introduction. It's a real whistle stop. I apologize. There is probably a lot more to tell people and questions to ask. Go on our website, my email's there if you want to contact me in that way. Claire, I definitely will email you, don't worry about that. But if anyone else wants to email me, ask anything, they're more than welcome to. I will tell you what I can tell you between now and October the 8th, when it's all going to get very exciting.
Well, John, do you live your life at this pace?
Yeah. I've got two businesses at the moment. I'm still running my consultancy, so I've just actually written Active Travel England's new consultation engagement guidance with my other hat on. But that's paying the mortgage, and this is gradually getting more important in my life. Seamus, I can see you've got a question.
Yeah, hi John. I've got quite a lot of questions buzzing around my head. You mentioned Felixstowe a few times. I'm in Felixstowe. I'm also chair of the East Suffolk Council Cycling and Walking Working Group. We've got a very detailed strategy, which we're trying to, like 250 pages, covering the whole of East Suffolk, which we're trying to move into implementation. So I don't know where to start in a way.
Well, can I recommend that anything that might be general, Seamus?
Because
we are on 7:05. That's fine by me.
So
and then
John,
connect
you said you might run some workshops.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Felixstowe in that. So
yeah. By the sounds of things, Seamus, just email me at jon@beaterstreets.co.uk, and if Holly and people are okay, because we are a bit time pressed, to be honest, in getting stuff going. Not the city, we are time pressed this evening. It's 7:05, and I appreciate not everyone wants to hear me talk about this all night, but basically we've got to get going. So we've got kind of our pilot thing kind of finished by Christmas. So this kind of period where people get to use the tool. So if you're keen, like tomorrow, we can have a chat. We can talk about who else from your group might want access, and basically all you've got to do is go and sign up, and we are giving you free access to our software for the 3 months.
Something as well we could introduce at the working group, maybe get you, John,
absolutely.
along. We meet like it's once a month at the moment, I think, isn't it? So I don't know if Seamus other things can see.
No, that's what I was thinking. We'll get John to join online, and
I mean, I'm as happy to, I want to meet people and get people using our software. That's my mission brief for the next couple of months. So whatever I've got to do to make that happen, and again, being a Suffolk former resident and a local lad as such, I'm really quite proud that something I built in our back bedroom during lockdown, is now a real thing and getting let loose first on the streets of Suffolk. So happy days.
Our next meeting of that working group is in Lowestoft, actually.
Oh, cool. Oh, excellent. Yeah. So I used to cycle to John Lehman in Beccles to go to school, you know, like that used to be my commute as a young lad. But anyway, you wouldn't do it anymore around the Barnby Bends, not like we used to. I think it's got a bit hairy.
It's one of the roads we're looking at, I think.
Yeah,
well, I think it really links to
North
what I was
Coast
saying.
Barnby link and then through. Used to be the way I used to do it. But anyway.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for sharing your childhood
memories. No, exactly. You're taking me back now.
Yeah. Superb. Has anybody got any major must-do questions to John or to the others before I sum up? How's it looking? No. So Seamus does want just your email address, John, so again.
It's really simple. It's just jon@betastreets.co.uk.
Brilliant. Okay. Brilliant. Well, I must admit, I didn't know quite what to expect from tonight, but I've been overwhelmed by the information that's presented to us, and it's been a fantastic webinar. So I extend my thanks to the guys who presented, John, Holly and Chris, from all of us. I've been really interested to have a definition of active travel, the co-benefits of active travel. You know, we are in a climate crisis, and this certainly will affect who we are, how we are, and what we're going to be in the future. So that's perfect. You know, thinking about the cost to the NHS on ill health, for instance, in the future, if we're not well mentally, physically, as well as congestion and decarbonisation. So that has been absolutely amazing. I hope you've all learned quite a bit from tonight. I certainly have, and seen the challenges that some of my colleagues from Suffolk County Council have to deal with retrofitting, etc. But again, some of the tools that are available to us is absolutely amazing. I have done a whole load of links in the chat, which I know probably won't be available to most of you after the webinar. So I'll make sure that they're available. I'm hoping that I've got everybody's email, but if you want to email me at claire.ling, I have everything in my name for claire.ling@suffolk.gov.uk, then I'll get this out to everybody, and it will be as part of the webinar when it's online. I would just like to say that it has been an aspirational evening. I hope you've got an awful lot out of it. And yeah, just go and eat to your heart's content, because tomorrow we're all going to be travelling actively. Anything else?
I was just going to say, if any of the other members are in East Suffolk, I'd be very happy to hear from any, or if you hear of any in East Suffolk. We're really looking open to villages, parishes to get in touch with possible schemes. We're working quite closely with Benall Parish Council at the moment.
You, me, and maybe Daniel Waring from East Suffolk and the guys on the call could get together and have a follow up on that. Seamus, very happy to do that. Because I'm in renewable energy, but there's two ways to look at it. One is generating renewable, and the other is powering down the electricity we use. And whilst we're doing active travel, we're actually powering down and taking some of that off of the grid pressure as well. So, you know, another benefit of active travel, we share the electricity around. Brilliant. Well, I am going to leave you and love you. Thank you ever so much again. I'm going to do that on behalf of everybody, and we'll talk soon. Undoubtedly, we are doing a visit, hopefully, to the cycle hub, walking cycling hub over at Ipswich in the near future. So again, if you email me, I will make sure that you're on the list for that as well, so we can all visit and have a look what it looks like at Burlington Road, Ipswich. Thank you very much, and you're free to enjoy your evening. Au revoir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.